Now, on to an interesting thing which has happened in the last couple of days, in fact, in the world of common law. There has been something of a breakthrough. Many people will know that Neil Oliver on GBNews does a Saturday monologue every week. And this time, in fact, he also mentioned the forthcoming coronation of King Charles in May as the reason why he was going to talk about this now, and questioned at some point whether it was possible for Charles to swear the coronation oath while still allied with foreign powers, such as the World Economic Forum. But here he's talking about the place of juries and common law in the legal system. Let's have a couple of minutes play of this.
Any government that empowers itself to write legislation and also to impose the punishment for breaching that legislation is a tyranny. Any people that submits to the idea that the government both makes the legislation and enforces it is a people living under a dictatorship. This power, this absolute power of the people, is wielded via the jury. Generations of people in this country have been miseducated into overlooking this power. But the undeniable fact is that every jury has the power to judge the very justice of the law. When a jury hears a trial, even if it's proven beyond doubt that legislation, a law, has been broken, the jury may still set the accused free. Indeed, if trial by jury is being exercised as defined by the Constitution, even one juror finding the accused not guilty must result in a not guilty verdict. If you listen to this and think the power of the jury is awesome, that is because it truly is. And that's why we must never allow any here today and gone tomorrow government to try and persuade us otherwise. Every day that passes when we allow our government and our judiciary to blind us to that awesome truth is another day closer to abject tyranny and to the rule of despots. I mentioned King Charles. If we do in fact live still in a constitutional monarchy, then the constitutional monarch must swear an oath to protect the rights of the people, not the rights of Parliament, not of the government, but the people against all comers. For more than 1,000 years, our constitutional monarchs, Queen Elizabeth II included, have sworn also to protect our national borders. Our democracy is founded upon the unquestioned, unchallenged sovereignty of the people. The monarch swears to protect our liberties without exception. If anyone tells you that our constitution, founded upon Magna Carta 1215, has been set aside or superseded, is simply and profoundly wrong. Here's the thing, and here's how we win the war. Either we live in a democracy in the form of a constitutional monarchy, or we don't. If we don't, then Parliament better at least have the decency to tell us so, and furthermore to explain when and how that happened. We are free people and sovereign. We're not granted that freedom by Parliament, but by the bedrock of our Constitution, indeed by the universe itself. That Constitution is much older than Magna Carta, which was only a 1215 restatement of what was already true and understood and made real by the much older common law. I've said this before and I'll keep saying it until the silence is overwhelmed and we begin the long task of remembering that we cannot be told what to do by government.
Well done, Neil Oliver. And of course, he's been working up to this in his own study and his own rhetoric. And he's been taking the advice and excellent judgment of William Keyte in this process, who has schooled him in a lot of this material. Without any sense of competition, but just to underline that we've been working towards this as a constitutionalist movement for a long time. And I'm sure Mark will be laughing at us here because we're so far behind the Americans in this regard, but we're getting there, Mark. Let's just have a look at what happened in 2016 when yours truly gave one of the keynote speeches at the British Constitution Group's conference in Winchester. I'm particularly talking here about that time which we could already anticipate when we will be preparing for King Charles's coronation, one of the elements of which, of course, is the popular acclaim of the King, that he is our accepted monarch, not just the legitimate heir and having fulfilled the oath, but whether we find him a fit and proper person, given what we know of his allegiances and mindset to reign over us. So here's what I said at Winchester in 2016.
Her Majesty is not long more for this world. She's 90 years old. Many people want to honour her for the rest of her reign for what some of us think is having put a lot of brakes on what would otherwise have been a lot more evil. Others are deeply disappointed in her, but I think we can all agree that when she's called home, there will be an unmissable opportunity for us not to acclaim her heir and successor, although he be according to law, and although he sign and approve all the oaths, that we say, with the Israelites of old, to your tents, O Israel. That was the cry in Hebrew, la'aholecha, meaning go home. Don't give any legitimacy to this coronation ceremony. I suggest that that's what we do, and that we use the words of the Israelites of old and say that we have no portion nor inheritance in the house of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. I think that we need national repentance, and I think that we need to throw off that house. And I think we need a second element in the spirit of 1215 and 1648 and 1688, and that is a new peace treaty with whoever the new sovereign will be. And based on the experience of history, because these peace treaties are cumulative and build in the knowledge that we've built up over the centuries of how abuses are perpetrated, I think there needs to be a new element in a new peace treaty before a new sovereign from a new house is appointed to rule us. It's not sufficient anymore to undertake that we're going to be ruled by our laws and customs, because we have seen that international law and royal prerogative have been misused woefully since the enemy got a chance to do so through this treaty-based system. So I suppose, and I propose, that we will need to put in that treaty that juries will be told before every trial that they may and must nullify unconstitutional statutes not in accordance with our common law. I also believe we need term limits. Thank you.
So you notice what got the applause of that crowd, didn't it? It was jury nullification that got the applause. Which of course makes people's eyebrows raise sometimes, but jury nullification is the jury doing what it very much did, for example, during the James Stewart tyranny, and refusing a judge's direction to find people guilty that they know did nothing wrong. In the William Penn trial, which is also American heritage, of course, because Penn is the founder of Pennsylvania, one of the the Keystone State, as it's well known to be. This is not wacky stuff. This used to be taught all across the land in schools, and a great amount of interest has flown from this. I won't play a clip of this, but I'll show it on screen. It's William Keyte talking to Richard Vobes, a deservedly quickly growing channel on YouTube, which Richard has entitled "This Is Big." That's the name he's given to this interview. Here, Will Keyte, and pardon me, it was him who talked about Charles's allegiances to the WEF. It wasn't Neil Oliver, but people should listen very carefully to this. Will is only making perfectly rational, lawyerly points, though he doesn't claim to be a legal expert as such. He's one who studies as a friend of the common law. He's noticed this that juries historically have got all the powers that stop abuses. People who've devoted their lives to the study of abuses in courts. Dr. Richard Cordero in the USA, for example, point out judges will throw out evidence as inadmissible in order to find the innocent guilty, and vice versa. Will Keyte says specifically in this interview that it's in his sources, that's also part of the judge's purview, the jury's purview. They are the true judges in the courtroom. Now, we could go on for hours, but we don't have the time. The point is that this is not something that's been done in a corner. That juries have rights, that judges are afraid of them in any common law jurisdiction. In various US states and Ireland, people have been arrested, I would say unlawfully, by police or by court staff for going near a court and saying to people who might be jurors, did you know that you can find people innocent when the judge directs you to find them guilty? The US has a whole association for this, the Fully Informed Juries Association, FIJA, which Will mentions in that interview. But what I wanted to bring on people onto is this. We have a long history of dealing with these things. People often reproach us for not being up to date and not sharing the latest thing. But we've been on this for a long time. Go to A Dissident's Guide to the Constitution, which you'll find under series in our menu on ukcolumn.org. Episode 2 is devoted to common law, with much said about juries and jury nullification, which is what led me to say all those years ago in Winchester that's the kind of reading of the rights to the jury that should be something that the king signs up to at his coronation, that he undertakes that people who judge in his name as jurors will know and not have it hidden from them, that they can overturn wretched laws. But Vanessa, you often...
Vanessa's not here, Alex. Vanessa left us after her segment.
I beg your pardon. I wasn't aware that she'd left us. Perhaps we could throw it over to Mark then.
Interesting. Yeah, boy, you covered a lot of things there. I would back up a little bit about property rights and titles and juries and nullification. I wanted to comment about that. I was waving my hand about that a bit. In America, what they do is they're trying to avoid jury trials with house repossessions. Your house is already paid for. You don't pay your property taxes. They try and foreclose on your house. Or your house is still under a mortgage, but they invent a paper trail where they claim that you're in arrears to your mortgage when you actually aren't. And they aggressively try and get your properties away from you for other schemes they have in mind. And the judges go towards summary judgment in the courts and try to avoid jury trials altogether. And just hundreds of thousands of homes are repossessed and foreclosed on, throwing Americans out of their homes every year. As the courts and the media are all corrupted, as they avoid juries altogether, they go for summary judgment. In many ways, they do it unlawfully. And so there's a huge repo foreclosure racket going on in the United States where they even invent the paperwork in a fraudulent way. And they use digital scanning to scan people's signatures and put people's signatures on documents where they never signed it. And it's a huge racket that I've been studying off and on with a guy named Mickey Paletta in Pennsylvania, and looking at how paperwork is fraudulently generated, how debts are fraudulently created or expanded, and how this whole racket works. So much could be said, but avoiding juries and going for summary judgment and just oodles of fraud is the name of the game.